So when you show up to market and they find a social media post, whether it's on YouTube or on Instagram, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's what I'm struggling with. She can help me with that health problem, like whether it be gut or migraines or low back pain, right? She can help me." And then they go through the steps. Maybe they sign up for a workshop, maybe they book a consult, but then eventually they, work with you and they get the help that they need and their problem solved versus, going into Western medicine alone. Not that Western medicine is completely bad, but they don't have your services to complement Western medicine, and they get, shuffled through the grind and are gaslit and don't know what to do, and they don't get the help they need. So it's remembering that marketing, first of all, is a service for your people. Second of all, we're going to talk about some strategies on how to make it easier today, because it's knowing that for most practitioners, it's uncomfortable and no one wants to do it. And it's often the first thing that they want to hire out and spend money on, but it really should be the last thing that they hire out and spend money on. And it's understanding how social media in particular can be such a great asset to your business, even if you want to focus on marketing mostly in person through in person workshops or networking events or just networking and referrals. That's all great. Do that. But you can also have a presence on social media that is like gas to any of those in person strategies. And it really can become such a great asset in your business. And for me, I felt all of this. You might have known my story where I really was hesitant to post on social media when I had my brick and mortar, because at the time I was combining physical therapy and yoga in San Diego, and there wasn't a lot of practitioners doing this. This was like maybe, oh gosh, definitely over a decade ago, maybe even 15 years ago. And there wasn't as much science and research behind it as there are these days. And when I was in even before I worked for my mentor, because of my own healing journey, I had 3 surgeries on my wrists and a shoulder surgery because I was a Division One diver. Physical therapy got me far. Yes, I would say, 80%, but it was the complete whole person healing and the ability to more than just functionally use my wrist, but get back to things I love, like plank pose and yoga and handstands and come out of a dark phase of life that I was in. It was yoga that helped me find my path and physically heal. So when I first started working in an insurance-based high volume clinic, I always wanted to include massage and nervous system because, I'd been a massage therapist a decade prior. I wanted to include yoga because I know how influential it was for my own healing. And my boss, I kind of had two bosses that kind of bullied me around. That's just a whole other story. You can hear some of it on social media. I bring it out, but because there was the director of the clinic, and then the previous owner was still on staff, and he had owned before he sold it, he had owned that business for like 30 plus years. So he was still like definitely like hands in the pudding, and I was the new grad, the young female with these two males who would kind of boss and bully me around at times, and I was not as empowered and confident as I am now, and I was an introvert and very shy. So I internalized a lot that they would say to me, things like, "Oh, you can't do yoga. It's too granola. There's no research to back that up. You're just going to hurt people. You're just going to hurt yourself because you're so hypermobile," things like that. So when I finally went out on my own, even though I had worked for my mentor for a number of years and really honed the skill of combining physical therapy and yoga for like, I worked for her for 7 or 8 years. Even when I went out on my own, even after that, that imprint of some of those, I'll call them old school colleagues and people on the internet, I was really fearful that if I posted about how I was doing physical therapy and yoga, that I would get like reported to the physical therapy board or something like that. My brain really went down a rabbit hole, and it was just really uncomfortable for me to post on Facebook. I was so introverted. I was actually, the only reason why I got on Facebook was because I started my business, and I would only post a post like every so often. It was definitely a highlight of life, type of post. I didn't really share anything vulnerable. I always considered what past colleagues would think, what past friends and boyfriends would think. And I went down the whole gamut of how people would judge and criticize me. And so if you're feeling any of that and that caused you to be very, critical of your content, very um perfectionistic of your content, hesitant to post, it takes a long time, it feels really heavy, just know that I've been there too. And now I actually look to social media as a creative outlet, a place to connect with my audience. And now that I've turned things around and really understand how to create content faster, content that does connect quicker, it has become such an asset in my business and I look forward to it. And yes, it is still time consuming, but I put boundaries on my time and I don't for sure let it leak over into my life where I feel like I always have to be pulling out my phone and I can't actually live my life. So I have strategies and I teach my clients this as well as to, yes, if you are showing healthy lifestyle, how you actually live and practice what you preach, I do feel that is important. You are an example and a leader for your audience. However, you don't have to have your phone attached to your hand and always be showing every millisecond of your life. And you can really put strong boundaries on social media so it becomes a wonderful asset to your business. So that's what we're talking about today, is the mindset behind it and creating a desire to show up and work through the discomfort because it is uncomfortable. All that you are feeling is real. And it's acknowledging that and knowing that you can develop the capacity to feel all of that and develop skills so that social media actually feels better and is less time consuming. And this can be for any platform. It can be for Instagram, it can be for Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Substack, wherever you're showing up. But I'll tell you, when you get it, it'll be so much better. Like when you don't have to say yes to every subclass that's offered you because of the potential opportunity, or you can really filter down your classes because you're getting solid leads coming in through social media. When you teach a workshop out in public and people show up to that workshop, not only excited about the workshop, but preceded on your offer that you're going to be announcing after the workshop because they follow you on social media and love your content. And you don't have to rely on those time consuming lunch and learns where, potential referral sources like doctors only show up for the free food, or, boots on the ground going door to door, clinic to clinic, which is great if you want to do and connect. And if they follow you on social media while you're there too, now they're going to stay more in contact with you and understand you, and you're going to be top of mind. It's just fire to anything, or gasoline to anything that you're doing to ignite that marketing fire. And it's remembering when it's done consistently that whatever platform you're on, I highly recommend starting with one, or you could do the Instagram to Facebook repurpose, for example, or Instagram to YouTube repurpose, where it's very simple. You don't really have to change anything. That's fine. But focusing on one platform, when you build an audience there and start connecting and getting opt ins and people buying from you, then it becomes such an asset that keeps giving back to your business. It becomes a referral source that is always on, always working, even if you're sleeping or going on vacation. And because of the algorithm, when you train the algorithm on who your ideal client is that you want to work with, then it's showing your content, your page, to essentially the people that you want it to. You don't have to do gas money or a ribbon on a gift basket to hand to the front desk, who are the gatekeepers to potential referral sources, for example. And yes, there is a catch to that. Any asset that's going to give back to your business, and you do have to put in time and energy, and there can be growth edges and discomfort when it comes to it. The difference with social media is that it all compounds. Every post you make, every reel, every story, it all adds up. Doctors eating your chocolate doesn't necessarily compound. It was, you sometimes just lost chocolate. But then if they follow you and be like, oh my gosh, her content's really unique, I really like what she does, her services could really complement and help my patients, then all that time it really starts to pay off. And when I go over these two strategies, it's going to spill over, not just growing an audience on social media, but your workshops will get better, sharper. Your client consultations will get easier and you'll get more yeses. You'll have more people buying into your programs. Okay, so here's the two strategies. Strategy one is accept that there's a learning curve and that there's going to be uncomfortable emotions. You just have to put boundaries on it. So for my clients, for example, and for me, I schedule time on Monday to create my social media content for the week. It's about 90 minutes. Sometimes it's 2 hours where I'm able to do 2 posts a day. Now, my VA does repurpose my twice a week emails to a couple carousels. So a couple of those pieces of content are she does do. But like right now, I have to go in and update our framework and our SOP because they're not landing quite as well as I'd like them to. So there's still time involved with that and a learning curve with that, even though I have a VA helping me. But most of the other content or all the other content I create personally. Then I do have when I post, I do leave about 10 to 20 minutes to engage. So responding to DMs, just engaging with my audience and reaching out to people who are not following me and getting new followers. And I leave time for about 10 to 20 minutes to do a story about 4 to 6 times a week, an Instagram story as well. And that's my main time. And so when I'm living my life outside of that time, I have my content created. I just schedule it out, except for the stories I have to do in the moment, of course, because you can't schedule stories right now. But then usually when I'm showing, so for example, just a couple weekends ago, I had an overnight at a winery with my girlfriends. It was so fun. I created some content like right when I got there because we were staying in this beautiful room. It was very bougie. So I brought my reel like tripod thing and I did some reels right when we got there. And then pretty much the remainder of the time, I didn't create any other content unless one of my friends, she's really, well, actually, both of them would say, like, hey, I'll send you one a shot. And then, like, randomly, they would record me because they're really great friends and supported me that way. So then I would create a little bit more, but those were bonuses. I had gotten everything that I needed right in the beginning. So I didn't feel pressure to bring out my phone again. And I do that often. Like, we just went to a St. Patrick's Day event on Saturday. My husband really loves St. Patrick's Day. And my daughter came and a friend, and I took some footage right when we got there. I took some footage when they were jumping on this trampoline thing. And then I put my phone away the remainder of the time. So I don't feel pressure to document every single minute. But it's understanding that it does take time. In the beginning, my reels and my carousels and everything used to take much longer than it does now. But the more I did it, the faster I got, the more comfortable I got, the less perfectionistic. And so set a boundary. Say, I tell my clients often, like, say, block off 60 or 90 minutes on a Monday. And if you create one piece of content in that time, just stick with that. And for the next several weeks, just create whatever amount of content you can create in that amount of time. And that's what you do. And then over time, you'll be able to get faster. And I have some clients that are eventually able to create 4 to 5 pieces of content in that 90 minutes where, several months prior, it maybe was one piece of content. So then you're able to put out more content to test more to see what messaging works. But during that time, you have to understand that it's a new skill. So you have to learn it. You do have to understand messaging, which we're going to get into with step number 2. You do have to work through the discomfort of maybe showing your face on a camera, or you don't always have to do that. Learning how to create an arsenal or stockpile of B-roll videos, or even understand what any of this language means. There is a learning curve. But if you just say, okay, what is realistic for me to schedule into my calendar? And that's what I'm going to do for now. And just know that over time you will get faster. Maybe over time you can build in more time, but the asset will grow and compound upon yourself. And then also understanding within that learning curve, when you do feel uncomfortable emotions or don't want to show up or have perfectionism or want to reschedule that hour block or feel fear, how will you support yourself along the way? For me, it's reminding myself, okay, I'll often name what I'm feeling. I can feel fear. I can feel, fear of judgment or criticism, or I can feel really vulnerable, but I'm going to post it anyways. And I'm going to be proud of myself for doing that. And also, it's understanding if someone does, troll and say something negative, how will you support yourself then? And have coaching to help you through that because that will speed up the process. Then, after you acknowledge what you're feeling and have a plan to support yourself with that, it is learning how to shift to desire, wanting to create social media because you know that it'll be an asset for your business. You see all the potential for signing clients and helping to reduce your class schedule or doing in person referral marketing strategies that maybe are really hit or miss and time consuming, where social media you can do in your pajamas from home on the couch. So it's creating desire or that feeling of service and connection, knowing that when you do show up and have an audience, you'll have people to help and serve, right? That's a whole reason why you're getting into health and wellness, and connect with them. So it's remembering all of that. And then strategy number two is getting hyper specific in your messaging. It's remembering that in one post, there's no way that you can really highlight all that you do. Especially, I know a lot of you are very multi certified, multi skilled practitioners. It's remembering that when all your pieces of content and all your emails and all of that come together, that is your body of work. That all of that is your asset. And when people are consuming or binging, even if they come to your profile and really like you, several pieces of content or even emails, that puts the whole picture together. So in each piece of content, you need to be hyper specific to a moment in time in what your ideal client is actually feeling and experiencing in a specific moment in time. Like that moment when their child is taking forever to get out the door and put on their sneakers, and they keep getting distracted, and you're feeling that pressure building up because you know you're going to be late and you have all these things to do, and so you start snapping with them instead of taking a few deeps and being patient. You speak to that moment in time when they are the parent of feeling guilty now because they snapped at their child, and they really want to be that more present and patient parent. You want to be able to, I know I'm hyper specific when they can actually imagine the moment. So, for example, I just had a social media post do really well with me in terms of comments, and I'll read the hook here so I'm just pulling it up. So I got a lot of comments for a free opt-in. You can go look on Instagram and see for yourself. But the hook was very specific. You can visualize it. And here's the hook. When the same yoga teacher who preaches slowing down is racing between 3 studios in one day for $35 a class, eating lunch in her car with the engine still running, and still worries about rent every month. I live this longer than I want to admit. So it's hyper specific to a moment in time. I also saved another Instagram content. I save ideas for my clients to show them so I can show another example that is not my own. I just loved this one. There's a video of a female training in the gym. It's a B-roll style content, and it says, "I'm not training to be skinny. I'm training for there's no effing way she's 53." It's punchy, it's specific. Someone can imagine what they would want to look like when they're 53 or where they are now, and someone, their neighbor, their friend saying, "Oh my God," like they're introducing her to someone and saying, "No way, she's 53." It's short, it's quick, and it gets to the point when they can again visualize that hyper specific dream. So with your messaging, you want to make sure that people can visualize it is speaking to an emotion that they're feeling and a moment in time that causes that emotion typically. And so if you're saying to yourself, "Well, I'm not really tech savvy, I'm a hands-on practitioner, this just isn't natural for me," don't worry. Remember, I've been there too. I hear it all the time with a lot of clients that first start working with me. I know you went to school for years. You passed boards, you took complex anatomy, physiology, lots of different types of certifications. And it's remembering that you learned all that. You did all that. That's really hard work. And you, for sure, can learn how to film yourself talking for 30 seconds. You can learn the tech of Instagram. It's just a skill like the other things. And you just have to reframe that in your mind because you were motivated. You had that desire to learn those hard skills and go through those certifications and take the boards. You had the desire to do all that. And you have to find that desire for social media, that same desire to learn the skill, because it will get easier. And I promise you that a reel is less complicated than a spinal mob, for example. Or if you're thinking, "Well, what if no one watches?" Then you make another one and another one. Every practitioner who's built an audience, again, unless they're coming with a strong marketing background, started with no people watching or crickets. I for sure, my account was crickets and quiet for years. So you're not an exception. You are exactly like every other person who exceeded at the starting line. So the more content you put out, the more data you'll get back and the more you'll learn to improve to go forward. That's part of the reason why the consistency really pays off, because you get all this data to make the next week's piece of content even better. And if you don't want to be on social media all day. Just remember, you don't have to be. That's a myth. Strategic batch content creation, you put the boundary, the timeline that feels sustainable in a week for you, and then that's where it is. You're not applying for a job as an influencer, you're building a business asset. So there's a little motivation this week to get started in your social media content, because I'll tell you, I've had one client, her account was Cricket for some time, and now people are recognizing her out in the community. She had a reel just that went viral with lots of comments on it. And she speaks to an older population. She calls them seasoned bodies. So it can happen. And she gained, I think it was 600 followers off of one reel. So things can change quickly, but we did a lot of testing prior to that and trying different things. I have another client, she told me for the first time, her account, actually a couple clients for the first time have breaken 1,000 view mark and are getting more comments and views consistently. And so it really changes everything when you get to this place where you are getting more views, you're getting more follows, you're getting more comments. You realize how it can really help your business. And I've helped so many different types of wellness practitioners. I know it can happen for any niche of health and wellness. So if my clients can do it, you can do it too. You just have to keep going and staying consistent with it and find that desire. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye for now. This episode is brought to you by Jane, a practice management software and EMR designed for wellness practitioners who value structure, simplicity, and calm growth. If you're a skilled wellness practitioner who's tired of tech overwhelm and administrative chaos, Jane understands. Your expertise should be focused on client transformation, not wrestling with software. Jane provides the structure and systems you need to run a sustainable practice. With Jane's streamlined online booking, your clients can easily schedule at times that work for them. With smart features like waitlist notifications, those last minute cancellations become opportunities, not losses. It's a simple way to maintain consistent revenue without the constant hustle of filling your calendar. During sessions, Jane's AI powered documentation helps you capture important notes, efficiently allowing you to stay present and focused on delivering exceptional care. After appointments, you can end on a healing note rather than a transactional one by charging cards on file and handling rebooking before the client leaves, creating the organized, professional experience your business deserves. To discover how Jane can help you build a more structured, scalable wellness practice that works even when you're offline, resting, use the link in the show notes. And especially for you, Ignite Your Wellness business listeners, when you're ready to implement the simple system that supports your growth, use code IGNITE1MO. So that's IGNITE1MO to get your first month complimentary. That code will also be in the show notes.